Hello, 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 everyone. How are you doing this afternoon? How are you doing? Hey, Amit, what's up, Mike and crew? Hope everyone is well. Hello, Sashi. This is a rip your face off rally, oil sell off, and commodities. We talked about it not to be surprised with the rip your face off rallies. I know we've mentioned that a few times. Hello, William S. I'll see if I can get that. Otherwise, we'll get to it in the stock segment looking at Apple. Actually, I wanted to go over a little great intraday play today, so I might save that for the stock segment if you don't mind. If you could join me then. If you can't, let me know with a comment that you can't join, and maybe I can get to it now. Tesla, how you doing, Tesla Force? So we'll get started in a minute, but just in case you had to tune out quickly, remember core inflation tomorrow morning, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. So you got core inflation, the inflation rate. Then you have continuing jobless claims also. So you have a lot initial jobless claims. There is a lot of stuff going on at 7:30 Central. So make sure you're prepared for that. By the way, just some other house cleaning. This is schizophrenic market. The 25 basis point is back to pretty much being fully priced in, and there's a 1.7% chance for the 50 basis point again. Hello, Abraham. How are you this afternoon? You can see from the heat map, lots of green except for oil, which we were expecting the pullback. We went over that. Actually, we identified that double top yesterday, and then we identified it also or looked at it again in the market preview. So if you want to join us every morning for those market previews, please do. They're at 8 Central Time. By the way, if you're new here, please do consider subscribing, ringing that bell, and hitting the ever so popular like button. All right. So what do we think, everyone? What did you? I hope you also had a profitable day. I'm keeping an eye on this. The S&P, you can see here, S&P up 2.5% as of this live stream. Nasdaq up 3.47%. Dow 2%. Russell 2.82%. The DAX up almost 8%. The DAX, here you go. There's the rip your face off rally. By the way, if you are monitoring DAX, I know we have some people from Europe who watch this, so I'm going to start including some more DAX stuff in this. But I'm watching my next targets. Should this continue higher, is about 14,245 to 14,364 right in here. It would not be surprised if this continues to see that 50% rally, but that would, the little bounce back, but that would be a huge bounce back in just a couple days. You can see with the S&P, by the way, we still are in negative gamma. If you want to know what the negative and positive gamma are, I do have a Mike's Classroom video up on that, so check that out. But when it's negative gamma, I think the negative gamma flip is around 4,400, which is all the way up here. We have a significant level up here, so we could see both continued upside and downside volatility because we still have that negative gamma in place. It doesn't shift to positive gamma until I believe around above 4,400, and that dampens rallies. So, and dampens sell-offs. So that's the key level to watch for on continued area. Remember, I'm watching to see where this 4 hour, it's going to close in 21 minutes. I want to see if this 4 hour, we get the close. It's confirmed as double. I want to see the 4 hour close above the peak for this to confirm this direct entry in this double bottom. That actually ups the probabilities rather than just the trade through. I need that 4 hour close. You can see here also I put back on the harmonics. And you see the flat 200 right there coming up here, spiking up just in front of it, pulling back, and then spiking up again just through it, but closing below it. So I'm still, well, at this point, I'm going to update the harmonics now. Oops, yeah, ooh, not that one. Oh, boy. It's going to be one of those afternoons. That was slightly off, too. The harmonic. There we go. Sorry about that, everyone. Let me switch my cameras too on there. With my harmonic, we're going to give this little pullback pause area. And look at that. Oh, thing of beauty. So tomorrow, on a continued rally, remember, I'm going to see how we react to the CPI numbers. They're going to expecting to come in hot. I've seen 8 to 9% year over year ranges. I want to see how the market reacts to that. That's going to be very telling whether this first print is already priced in because everybody expects the Fed to do that 25 basis point next week. On the continued rally, 43.18, then 43.38 are the key areas higher. And then we have right above that, we have 43.43. So lots of resistance up in this area. You can see that also a little pause above there, then 43.70. And then we're at 4,400, where I just talked about that gamma flip. Hello, Josh. So on a pullback, and again, we're going to have to fine tune this with the overnight price action, with the European price action. I'm watching 42.55 as a key pullback level. If we dip below that, I'll be keeping an eye right around 42.43 to about 42.45. That's on a bigger pullback. But then if we do, I want to see some price action get above 42.55 again. Below that we'd still be in this double pattern, but you don't really want to drop below 42.22 because we could start accelerating to the downside. You have a little clear path move below that. Let's see, Mike, can you go over setups for buy signals on 1 hour and 4 hour? I feel like I get the concept of price hitting certain levels and holding, but not good at looking at good buy signals when it comes to divergence. Well, a lot of these aren't divergent. These are just, I'd be watching for rotation setups right now. So here's like what, I watch for. There's two kinds of rotation setups I watch for. One is the drift sideways and 8 catches up. So here's a drift sideways, 8 catches up to the breakout play right now again. Drift sideways, 8 catching up, so I'm watching for the breakout play, especially this evening. A rotation play would be the pullback to the rotation zone. Right now, on a pullback, if we did pull back more, I'd be watching the 4 hour rotation zone and a play back up. Now, other plays I do percent B plays, I do momentum move plays. We can go over them when I see them. Today, it was just getting on to these key little areas. If you see here, there's some rotation plays on the 15-minute, which we were watching with the strong momentum day. See, pull back 15-minute rotation up, pull back 15-minute rotation up. Keep an eye on this key level because if you start getting below 42.67, I'm going to watch for that bigger pullback before I play a rotation play then. So again, if let's say we start breaking down the 15-minute, this is going to close in a little bit for that little window when the futures don't trade. Then let's say you did break down below here. What would I do? Okay. Let's just see where those conservative targets take us. See, and this is how I'm watching stuff. Let's say you break below there. Now, the first target on this double takes me back to this 42.54 we already talked about. 42.54 is right here, right in the middle of the rotation zone. So if we pulled back here, or even the second target, let me zoom in. You see the second target, bottom of the rotation zone. Then I'd start watching. I just don't magically buy unless it pauses and I get another trigger there. I wait for a rotation back up. Not all the way to new highs, but you watch for a rotation back up, just like when you're trading things to the downside like this. You see here, we return to the rotation zone. I'll watch for rotation back down. So this is a rotation back down. If you want to play it a little more conservative, all right, then here's another little tip. Here's another little tip. So you put on the little retracements, okay? And you can wait till it gets below the 62.5. So here's a 62.5. You get below that again. Because what does that 62.5 mean? It means, hey, we favor retesting the lows. So that's, that's the little more conservative entry. This would be more aggressive. This would be more conservative. But you're trading with the rotation zone. And the same thing applies on rotations back up. Now, on a sideways moves, I generally watch for it to base. Okay, so you can do your little pullbacks, but what I watch for is I do the bigger pullbacks. So this is really the move that started it. And then I really like the ones that don't pull back and just move sideways and stay above the 25% harmonic on a sideways move. And then you get the rotation back up. So that's how I like to play those little sideways corrections. Like right now, you see where if you did this, again, I'm starting here. You see here, we haven't pulled back that 25%. I don't care if it dips below, but I don't want to close below that. If we get a close below that 25, I start watching for the bigger pullback. So we're basing here, letting that 8 catch up, and you see how that price is starting to push up right now. So there's a couple little tips that you can work with yourself. You're welcome, Amit. So and you can start practicing with this. And remember, the higher time frames are more important than the lower time frames. That's why, if we have strong momentum, I'll be on the 5-minute and 15-minute in the indices. But, if we're just plodding higher and it's during slower sessions, like where reopens will be into the Asian session. So, like if I'm trading the Asian session, I'm watching on the 1-hour time frame more so than the 15-minute. You get to European Open, like where you start getting some of this momentum, I really start watching around 1 to 2 o'clock Central Time, 1 to 2 a.m. Central Time. I will start going down in time frames again if I'm up doing stuff then, because I'm starting to watch for these ignition bars. Like here, you see 115. You see we made this little resistance shelf. I guess it's going to be a minor teaching session. You see this right here? So ramp up in Asia, resistance shelf. I'm switching to the 15-minute because we're getting to that European Open. You see how then we break above it with some momentum? And then look, see how the pullback, you could do the really quick pullback into the 15 if you're playing a momentum breakout trade. Here's your momentum ignition bar here. It's catching on that 5-minute. All right. And then generally overnight, though, I'm trading the 15 if I'm trading with momentum in the early European session. And you see how it just kept rotation zones. And I went through, you can do the retracement areas. You can watch for the rotation back up above the 62. And it's just putting the trend in your favor. And that's where you can also keep tight stops. So those are the concepts. And right now, again, I'm watching that 1 hour. Why would I watch that 15 minutes, as I said before? Just because we have this potential double right here, as I showed you. And that's just signaling if we drop below there, I'm not trading this short right now. I just start watching for the bigger pullback. You could theoretically trade it short, but it would be very aggressive, and I'd be watching this first target. So it would be a super aggressive target. All right. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Amit, for the super chat. A lot of work, especially to dedication and all the streams and keep us out of trouble and trade another day. And that is my goal. So there's some things I hope everybody just, you can either take those techniques, you can play with them a bit, you can add them to techniques you currently use, but that's how I'm doing things. And I have a few different entry signals I use. That's one of them. That's a relatively easy one. Tomorrow, again, if it shrugs off the CPI numbers or they come in better than expected, I'm really going to be targeting this 43, 46 area as my first major target. Let's see. Hey, Mike. The DAX had a double bottom on the 1 hour, 4 hour before anything else, which pointed towards a broader bounce in markets. Yeah, and Christoph, again, thanks for being here. Christoph, another wonderful member of the community. And this is the CFD, which trades slightly different. Here, let me call up this, because I don't have real time on this platform with the DAX, but just looking. Well, you said it had a 1 hour, 4 hour double. Did that pull back enough? Yeah, definitely a bottoming pattern here. And, I'd be watching that with the futures. Do I have the DAX futures on here? I don't think I do. Yeah, maybe I don't want those. FDAX. I don't have, we can look at it on here. Yeah, here you go. Here's the futures. Right there. Again, I'm just starting to put this up again. I should put up the FDAX future. Let me put those up, actually. Bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to start covering more of this, Christoph. So there we go. So here's what Christoph was talking about. Again, wonderful member. This is a double. This is a valid double. And you can see, look at that. Look at where we closed. Look at where we closed. There's your target. Can't get better than that. Can it continue higher? Yeah, but this is where, you know, especially I'll watch for another kind of resumption of trend play. You know, especially this. Now you're taking something off. And then if you get the resumption of trend, then especially above, let me just look here with the DAX. You know, especially if you start getting above this 14,050 level again, you're into another clear path move. So there you go. So that would be another, this is how you're combining a lot of concepts into identifying the high probability trading areas. And look at this, clear path move right here, clear path move. I really hope this is helpful to people. Harmonic and end of this clear path move is right there. And then we check that off with the daily. And look, I would not ignore this first area though. That 14,185 to about 239. And remember, I want the whole that I had on that CFD, but I'd rather do it on the futures. And look at that. Look at this thing of beauty. Look at that. So this is how we fine tune our targets. There's, remember I talked about that 50% retracement level I would be watching for on a continued rally. There it is on the futures. There's with their harmonic. So we could easily even spike up there and then close back down below the rotation zone. Again, all this stuff can be put together. All right. Let's see. So there you go, Rich. Let's see. Hey, welcome, Rich. Today was actually narrow after open, very choppy. If not for overnight prop, the day was about a week. Not impressed here, and just back to mid of past 2-day highs. Yeah, it definitely was more of a European rally, but it did continue a bit into this session. And you know, you had a lot of the mega caps up. We got that mega cap bounce again. But definitely this, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of before the sell-off, when you used to make a lot of your gains in the European sessions, and then the U.S. would be choppy or slightly up. But you made most of your gains in the European session. That's what that price action last night reminded me of. Here's your Nasdaq. We had here's your harmonics. Now remember, this actually closed above this double bottom pattern on the 4 hour so far. So the probabilities are up on this, stalling out at the harmonic, but the next target I'm watching is 13,947, 14,088, 14,228. We have a significant level 14,267, and we have the flattening out 200 on the 4 hour. Before that, I really be, this is definitely, this 14,088 area is definitely an area to take some profits off because of the top of the rotation zone. And then the full completion, you see this 14,228 right at the top of all these candle bodies. So pretty significant resistance on the continued rally if it does continue tomorrow. And it will be interesting coming out of oversold zone just barely. We don't have a divergence there, but coming out of there, so we could easily still run higher. And I know everybody's like, well, with inflation coming out tomorrow, how can it at all run higher? Also, what's interesting is this triggers on this, where it's going to close now, triggers an aggressive %B buy signal. That could just be for a couple days, but it does trigger an aggressive %B buy signal. So we do have a couple buy patterns that I got to go with the short-term probabilities. Could we easily roll over? Yeah, given geopolitical circumstances, we could easily roll over. Something could happen again with Russia and Ukraine, we could easily roll over. So that's why you always know where your stops are. But again, we have probability to see upside. We have a trigger on a double, confirmed by not just the trade through it, but by a key close. And we have a percent B buy signal, albeit very aggressive. Where would the support be? Again, I'm going to be watching this prior peak area. So here's, as I've talked about with doubles, because we could easily pull back, but I start watching between the candle bodies, and I'm not going on the candle bodies on the 4 hour, of course, because they're all the way back down there. And if it came all the way back down there, you're essentially out of that double. So I'm going to watch it on the 1 hour, and here are those candle bodies right in the middle with the declining 1 hour rotation zone. So if we got a pullback in Asia, here's the key levels I'm watching then for a potential turn up trade. Again, a trade that turns up, a rotation back up, not a turn up trade. So that's the key level, and you could see it could come back, and that's the first cross of the 4 hour rotation zone. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. What else do we have? You find price action on the future gives you good sense for the trading day. If it hit a level, held or broke, do you give the same weight during market as during? Do you give it the same weight as during market price action? I'm a little confused on the question. Let me read it. The futures gives me a great sense for the trading day. That's why I'm watching them all the time. Okay, that's why, you know, and depending on what is going on, it helps me figure out what to jump in and trade. I mean, we identified this morning, and there were trades. I mean, there were trades. Like I'll go through this one in more detail in the stock section, but there was a great little pullback trade in Apple with a great little momentum up play. And am I bullish on this long term? No. But mega cap, you know, bouncing with the mega caps. If you take a look at our ratios, see here's the bounce with the mega caps. Could it bounce more? Sure, it could easily bounce more. There's our mega cap ratio. Let's just, if you just take a look at just the mega caps, a little bounce to the rotation zone. Could it end up with this other side of the rotation zone? Sure, easily. Look where it bounced last time and rotated back down. And now this is technically a double. I wonder where that plays out. I didn't measure this one out yet. And it does technically work. But yeah, I mean, if we got a huge rally and you can get them even in these sort of bear market scenarios, you can get that. Here's your value versus growth while I'm here too. So you got a growth. Remember I talked about this, expecting a bounce into growth again, but longer term, watching for another rollover back into value plays. So we're getting that bounce in growth. So with that kind of stuff, what do you think I was targeting today? I was targeting growth and mega caps. And we identified that with the futures, and then we rolled it into the open. So that's how, even if you're not trading the futures, you should watch the futures. And that's why I identified key levels in the futures. Now, I think everybody should learn to trade the futures, especially with the micro futures out there. And there are days there's nothing going on in the futures. There's nothing to do. Just like there's days where it's hard to find a good, decent stock trade. But, you know, now the Dow's interesting. It was the weakest of all of them. And we have this little potential double I'm going to keep an eye on, especially during the Asian session. And again, why do I watch the futures over just the indices? Because the futures virtually, trade 23 hours of the day. You know, it's almost constant trading on here. So, you know, here's your pullback. Here's the 1 hour. Look at that 1 hour first target on that. So if we do pull back, I'd actually be raising up this level to right around here. Resistance, retest, support, rotation zone. So pullback, I'd want to see. Even if it pulled back through here, I'd want to see how it closed in relation to this 33,100 on there, and then watch that rotation back up. Dow confirmed this double, but doesn't look like it closed above it on a 4-hour basis. So on the S&P and the Dow, oh, the S&P looks like it's going to close above there. On the 4-hour basis, we got 52 seconds left unless we get a ton of selling pressure. So that would also confirm higher probabilities of an increased up move. This is where you got to trade the probabilities, even if you're like, oh, inflation tomorrow morning, CPI, the market's going to get trashed. Well, I got to go with the probabilities. And yeah, it could get trashed. It could end up retracing this whole move. But I got to go with the probabilities. That's why you also trade with stops. Remember, you don't have to be right on every trade. You have to put the probabilities in your favor, and then when it hits that 20 or 30%, that's the probability that the trade didn't work. You take the stop and you move on to the next trade. Not a ton going on in the Russell. I mean, nice bounce back, but if it continues, I'm watching 2052. We already went through the DAX, crude. Here we had those doubles, that double, and it just, this is where it was the short little day trade, because look at this. You got the move, start to move below it, and then the momentum, and then just boom, boom. Second target, we had 104.35 area, spiking down and then bouncing back and holding at this first target again. So this is still in play. It's even on a rally back to, you know, the 116s. It's still in play right now. It could be starting another rotation back down, and the base on that, remember, is right around just in front of 100. So that was a big move, 11.46% in crude. But you start going vertical, nobody should have been caught off guard by that. And remember, you could not get that close on the daily basis above the harmonic, spike above it, back below, spike above it, back below, spike to it, and then there we go. Let's see what else. Amazon $10 billion stock buyback and 20-for-1 stock split, so that'll probably pop it a bit. But Ted, can you be in the stock session today? Because we can cover it then. You need to look at DAX. Yeah, okay. I didn't see that comment before. Just to confirm on ClearPath moves, you give the longer time frame more weight and then dial down the short. Yes, correct. Correct, Ahmed. So we give the longer time frames more weight. For example, if we start trading below here, you see this little area, again, we start getting key closes below here, you're into a clear path. The major target based off the 4-hour would be here, this area, right by the double target. Now, if you're trading this, I'm just using this as an example. So let me mark off your levels here, because this actually starts the clear path. This is the first area. The end of the clear path is down here. It actually turns into advanced clear path, but I'm not going to get in all that detail right now. But the start of the clear path, all right. You have here, but you have this little pausing area. So that would be, if you're playing this to a short side, that would be a little pause area. Then you have a little pause area here where we spike down to today, but then you see this. You don't have much more of a pause area to here. So you identify it, and then you can always use these minor areas to fine tune it. Just like to the upside, this is a clear path to the upside. How would I be fine tuning it? Well, the first major area I'd be watching is here, about 117.45. Now that's on the 4-hour. Then the end of the clear path is all the way up there. How do I fine tune it? You come down here, and there actually isn't a lot of pausing, but there's not a lot of pausing. So you can't even find it on the 1-hour. So I'd have to go to the 15-minute. On that 15-minute, your only pause area is about a 111.76, and then you have into here, and you're roughly the same area. So sometimes you don't even need to fine tune it. What about CP? I think I answered that. Sorry, I'm running behind in the question. Well, we answered that Amazon question. Let's see. Who knows what the market will do? I'm just trading off the patterns. The patterns have been tested separate from price reports coming out. CPI could push it lower, CPI could push it higher, but I can't trade off of where I expect the market to be, because I could expect CPI to come in at 10% and the market could still rally. I've seen crazier things happen. I've seen what I thought were terrible job reports and the market took off with them. I thought I saw what was great job reports and the market tanked with them. So that's where I have to just trade the probabilities. I can't trade what I think's going to happen. Now, I can have a long-term fundamental outlook. I can have a long-term outlook where I have it systematically in the indices. Long-term, I'm bearish. I have a ton of sell signals. Short-term, it actually favors the continued slight bullish rally. All right, does that make sense? But then I watch for the re-entry sell signals. Right now, it favors continuation buy signals. Does that mean it has to happen? No. That's why you're getting traded with stops. But I got to go with probabilities. I'm not going to fight something that has like a 70% probability that just triggered. Why would I put my odds in favor in the short term in the 30% versus the long term in the 70%? I mean, the short term in the 70%. I'm going to put my probabilities with the short term in the 70%. Now, in long term, we favor much lower prices. Long term, I'm bearish. I will be watching for re-entry signals. But just because I'm bearish, unless I'm only trading super long term, then I wouldn't be sitting here analyzing it with you. Because it would just be, okay, I'm going to put on my massive short positions, sell signals, and I'm going to walk away until key levels are hit. But that wouldn't do anybody on this channel a world of good if I said, hey guys, I'll see you. I'll do the live stream once my targets are hit. See you then. Gold. Got the pullback in gold. Again, to the first and second targets in gold so far. Little pause here at the second target. I'm still watching for a little continued lower price action. If you're not in gold and looking to get in, this is the first area of pullback. I do only a partial position, educational purposes only, by the way. I'd be layering into this because gold can get some very volatile moves. But if you don't want to miss anything, because the gold can also skyrocket again, as you see, you could not get the close above that 2053 harmonic, and I watched things on a closing basis. We reversed. Could we pull back more? Yeah. But if you're already not in gold, you might want to look for a first entry signal with whatever you follow. Where would I be watching then for a next entry signal? If it pulled back more, I'd be watching right around this 1912 area with the rising weekly. Silver, also, this is why you identify your prop. You got the double. 1, 2, 3 targets all hit. Pausing at the third target. There you go. Silver could be a first entry play right there. Copper also pulling back after that $5 mark. I'm going to see how it reacts around that 450 mark. Here's your notes. By the way, I talked this morning. We did get that close below that 62.5, so I'm watching for definitely a retest of the lows. By the way, not a double there, moving too far, but this just confirms of a potential retest of the lows. That's where the probabilities lie. Again, everything is probability based. I talked about I was watching for the sell signal. We had sell signals. I think I mentioned it yesterday and the day before in the dollar index. And we definitely got the pullback in the dollar index. On a continued pullback, I'm watching 97.25. Let's take a look at the custom mega cap index. Again, nice little bounce up play to here, and then pausing the commodities. Again, vertical up, watching for still a bigger pullback in this. How would that change? Well, here's how I analyze to know if, all right, how do I want to get on a potential move, because I want to be back in with a full position in commodities. You put on your retracements, and we start getting above this 62.5. So even if we bounced up here and then rolled over again, I'm still watching for the bigger pullback. That's all out the window if you get back above about 80, let's just call it 807. Because why? The probability shift. The probability shift at that point. So that's putting probabilities in my favor. Remember, everything I do is probability based. Just like when you're counting cards or a professional gambler, everything you do is not gambling at that point, is probability based. It's one of the things I learned from doing that for a while. Everything is probability based. Let's see. Feels like 2000, 2001 with all the stock splits. I mean, there'll be a whole bunch of stuff. Let's take a peek in at Amazon with where that is. So, again, I'm not bullish. Even with this move, fine, we have the stock split is trading up post. I'd actually start watching after this rally's done. You know, whether it ends this evening or whether it ends in a couple days, I'd be watching for this gap fill. It's just this is the emotional reaction. The only thing that will change that, Amazon has to really get above this 32.76 area before I'm longer term bullish. Other than this is could be a gift short setup again. I'm shorting Nasdaq. CPI is above 8. Fine. I hope you have a signal and you're not. Yeah, I agree. CPI will probably come in above 8. I think it could come in at closer to 9. Nasdaq can easily be back to. I completely agree with you longer term. Whether that happens tomorrow, don't know. It could, but again, then these 70% signals would be the 30% that were wrong, and it'd be a stop. So there you go. And you don't have to risk it all the way back down there. You can keep fairly tight stops on these signals and actually flip to short should we start getting some downside momentum. See, that's the other thing. I wouldn't be just putting on a blind short up here unless I had a really strong sell signal, which I don't. Now, as we talked about clear path moves, what's this? There's a 4-hour clear path. So could we get downside momentum here? Yes, we could. All right. But I'm going to get warning signs before that happens. And then that's why you take a stop and you can always flip. Again, we're in the rotation zone also. We're in the rotation zone. Once I'm in the rotation zone, I'll start watching for the rotation back down, but I don't have it yet. So there we go. That's how I've learned to do it. You know, it's since 1992. It's like Amazon saved the stock from a clear path decline. Well, here, yeah, I mean, let's see. Where were we sitting on the weekly? We have this, yeah, we have the clear path, but on the weekly, we didn't get a close yet into that clear path. We just got that daily, but on the daily, see the daily, if you look here, stopping points right around here. And that's where it traded to on the daily. So on the weekly, when we roll over again, because Amazon, look, this it's trading not 29.61. Where's your rotation zone? Sitting at 3. You could even pop to 31.60 area. Rotation zone. Rotate down. Only thing that blows that out of the water is this little double. But it's nowhere near triggering. So could this come up and then rotate back down? Now you're still going to be watching for a close into this longer term on the weekly basis for those continued down moves. And this pop up doesn't change the clear path. It just is a pop up. Sure, William. We can do Apple real quick. Then I need to take a quick break before the next stock thing. Apple. Who did that? What was the high there? 162.88. 162. This technically triggered a very aggressive buy signal, but there's not much upside. And you'd have to put a stop below today's low. But this technically did trigger a super aggressive daily buy signal, but your upside is right in this area, about 166.50 to about 167. So it's more that I just play this intraday on a continued move higher. What if you roll back over though? I'm still watching for a bigger pullback. The first warning sign will be below today's low though. Here was your little short-term play in Apple. This was a fantastic play today. Gap up, strong Nasdaq. Now remember, you put on your retracements from the close, and we watch for the pullback between the 50 and 62.5. 50% right there. So here's that area you're watching for that pullback to. Pull back in there, rotation up, and there you go. And there you go. And then you can use you can start using your extension harmonics to ratchet your stops up. So there's your first key level. Then once you get this nice longer term pause, there's your next level, and you can still use that for tomorrow. And now I'd use, we have the short term little extensions. So where would be the next target on a continued rally tomorrow? 165 area. And that would be from this. You could go from this low though for the daily. This is the same area, 165 roughly. It's just a little higher. I was just using that intraday price action, but I'd use this for your full target on the daily, about 165.20, 165. So again, with this little buy signal, it's super aggressive. What if I was going to trade this, I'd be more watching for a continuation play in Apple tomorrow and just play it intraday. Because again, I'm watching for at some point this to roll over again. That's why this is a very nimble trade. You're welcome, William. DOCU. February 2020 support. Yep, you're pretty much there. This is another one. Won't touch. This is not a long bottoming, not enough bottoming signal for me. Again, I knew too many people who are, that's why with analysis on this, you come down, there's your first one, breaking through it. We're still not to that 85.70 level. But look at this. Rotation zone down. Rotation zone is down. This is where, if you're trying to catch these little blip plays, you got to be really accurate and really quick. And then even if you get the bigger pop eventually, see, return to the weekly rotation zone. Weekly rotation zone. I'm not interested in playing this until we get a very solid basing pattern. QQQ. The Qs. 275 gap. I missed a Q there. I was like, why did I? $275. This gap. That can be a longer term target. I'd have plenty of targets in front of there for short trades. But longer term target, I mean, before I even had that target, see, now here's an initial longer term target zone, but my first target would be closer to 286. Longer term. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. I need to, my mouth is getting dry and I have to prepare. We'll come back for the stock segment. So for any stocks you want to look at tomorrow, or if you want to debate back and forth more about trading and probabilities, I will be around then in about, well, the countdown starts in 10 minutes. So I hope some of you can join me then. We'll take a look if there's anything for earnings tomorrow you want to look at, or any other stocks you want to do a little more in-depth analysis. That's the time to do it. Until then, I will talk to everyone later. Bye.